Morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. It's so good to be with you again this morning.
Good to have you here. Thanks very much for the time today. Phew, man, got a road bill going, and it appears it will be signed.
The report is that, yes, it will be signed by the governor, and I have to say that we are probably pushing the limits of his comfort level, trying to push this particular bill that has lots of savings for Michigan citizens in it. He would have been much more happier having more revenue. He likes having those budgets easily balanced, and this is going to take a little bit of work to balance the budget. We're going to have to make some cuts to make sure that we have the dollars to put towards our roads going up into the future. But I'm very excited to report that we have finally done something that through 8 years of a Granholm administration, the first 4.5, 5 years of the Snyder administration, the legislature has been unable to do. And so I am just very, very excited to be able to report that the House and the Senate has finally come together and put together this roads bill that protects the most vulnerable in our society and has relatively small increases, perhaps an average of $20 per car in registration fees, and again, a 7.3% or a 7.3 cent, not percent, it's a 7.3 cent increase in the fuels taxes on gases and diesel. And I'm excited to be able to say this is something that has garnered a great deal of attention. You know, this is the first time in 13 years that we as a legislature have been able to say we are going to get our roads fixed, and we're going to be ramping up this process over the next 5 years. This is something that will not be immediate next year. Some of the provisions are. The provisions that protect the most vulnerable are going to be ramping up right away. And needless to say, it's garnered a bit of attention.
Well, it has. And, we talk about wanting compromise. It just took a long time to get there. And even so, not everybody's comfortable with this. As you say, it pushes the governor's limits on it, but this is where we landed.
And there are surveys that are out that would have said, do you want the roads fixed with no increase in taxes? And I would say, yes, sign me up. I love it. But there was just no political way to get there. The governor promised to veto any bill that did not have revenue for the roads. And so this is going to be a bill that I believe he is going to sign. The indication is that he's going to sign it. And, you can say that business isn't paying enough, but I'm always challenged by that, Richard. Is it truly businesses that pay taxes, or do they just increase the price of their services? Do they just increase the price of the goods that we have to buy?
Pass it on to us.
And pass it on to us again. And if you gave me my choice of either having a job and paying taxes or not having that job, I think it's very, very important to make Michigan business friendly. I think that it is so important that we have good jobs for our students, good jobs moving forward for all the people of this state.
Dr. John Bizon's with us with our legislative update for the month. We'll come back in just a minute and pick up where we leave off on WBCK. We'll also talk, in addition to roads, about biosimilars. That bill is moving along, isn't it?
It is indeed, Richard. Thank you.
So we'll discuss that coming up shortly, 8:13. 8:15 WBCK, Richard Piet Show, Monday. Dr. John Bizon back with us from the Michigan House. So it really seems as though the comfort level with the road decision, where we landed, depends on which party you belong to.
Well, we did have
hear a
one
little about that tomorrow, too. This, Representative John Hoadley will be here tomorrow to talk about that perspective. But let's talk about this now. You noted that this is not the number one way the governor would like to see this happen, and that, I suppose, is testimony to how complicated this has been.
It has been a complicated process. If this was easy, it would have been done years and years ago. The way that Governor Engler did this 15 years ago was to bond for the roads. But I think that you and I had the discussion previously that bonding makes very little sense. If you bond for 30 years and the roads last for 7, 8, 12 years, we find that even now we have $2.1 billion that we have in debt, that the first $400 million that we pay every year in appropriations to the roads goes to that bond, so we lose the first $400 million for roads that are crumbling.
Right.
And
still
to
paying for that.
continue that going down and continue to bond for periods longer than the roads last makes absolutely no sense. And if this were easy, then I'm sure that Jennifer Granholm, the good governor, would have gone in and led the legislature to a resolution at some point in time. And I think it was 2007 or 2008 that they did the big study on roads, and they said this is exactly where we need to go. A lot of money and time and effort was put into that study back then. And again, no results with that either. And if you remember Governor Snyder's initial State of the State, he says infrastructure is important, and through the first 4 years went nowhere at all.
Right.
We could not get a resolution to the point. And there are those who would hold up their signs, hold up their pitchforks, and say, we need to do this all without any increase. That is what we are demanding. But that gets us to a point where we don't fix the roads. And if my goal was to make sure that these roads get fixed, because that is what the people of this county, that's what the people of my district said to me. They said, yes, the number one priority is fixing the roads. If you can do that with no tax increases, they would love it. I would love it. But there's just no way of getting there. And because of that, I think that this is a very conservative package that protects the most vulnerable. We're having an increase, some $200 million going into that homestead property tax credit. And that's going to protect renters. That's going to protect seniors. That's going to protect those with low incomes. We expanded the homestead property tax credit from what used to be $50,000 in income that you were eligible to file under, now $60,000. So we have another $10,000 of income. And yes, there are those who would say we're paying too much, and if you want to drive on good roads, you're going to have to find a way to be able to do that. And this was a politically available road to take, and I think
pun intended.
Exactly correct. We need to be able to get there, and we need to be able to protect those that need the protection. And I think overall it was a very balanced approach.
One of the criticisms it garners, particularly from Democrats, I think, is that this just pushes this off. The governor won't be in office, in essence, when the crux of this takes effect. And that there's too much unknown about this when we don't know where the general fund portion of this will end up coming from. How do you feel about that?
I would have loved to have been able to go through and identify the exact cuts that we're going to make. And that was my suggestion to the speaker, as a matter of fact. I pulled him off over to the side after one of our meetings, and I said, I would really love to be able to identify the cuts that we are going to be able to make. If you take a look at what we have done over the past several years, we have dedicated over the last 5 years some $1.27 billion in general funds to go to the roads over that period of time, and we're going to be continuing that effort. We're going to, this year, put some $400 million of general fund money in towards the roads. Next year, we are anticipating an increase in revenues. We're anticipating the growth of our economy by 2 or 3%. That's going to give us a little bit of wiggle room to grab some of those dollars and say, yes, we're going to use these towards the roads. This gets us to a point where our roads get fixed. I had significant car repairs over the last couple of years, from bent rims and shocks and tires, and getting that fixed, I think, is going to be beneficial to everyone who drives the roads of Michigan.
Dr. John Bizon is here, representative from Battle Creek. We're back shortly to pick up where we leave off. This portion 8:23 WBCK Monday. Representative Dr. John Bizon is here in our 8 o'clock hour on Monday. So, biosimilars. This is a group of bills that you've been quite involved in. Of course, and when there are issues of a medical nature, I would think that the lawmakers who have medical background get to work on those.
I was excited to be able to add my voice to the conversation on this very important new class of medications that, for the most part, are very, very potent, very, very expensive. And this is enabling legislation so that hopefully we will be able to save dollars in your premiums, save dollars in your copays and deductibles by being able to substitute a interchangeable biosimilar for a trade name drug that might be some 15 to 30% more expensive than the substitute.
Well, and the presumption is that when a person ends up on an expensive medication on a regular basis, the insurance company wants to find a way to try to offset their costs.
And by all means, I don't know of many insurance companies that don't pass all of those costs on to you. Perhaps it won't be in your very next premium, but in your next year's premium.
Right.
They are very, very good at sharing the pain. And if we can help to control the cost of medicine, we obviously need to do that. We need to work hard at making sure that we can afford our medical care going into the future.
And so this proposed set of bills has moved fairly quickly, hasn't it?
We've had a number of hearings on it. As a matter of fact, we even had two bills, and the sponsor of the other bill was a representative by the name of Ken Yonker, and he and I came together to formulate down to the essence the necessary changes in the House bill dealing with the biosimilars. I believe my bill was 4812. His bill was 4437, if memory serves me right.
Mm-hmm.
And about a week ago, he and I sat down together and talked and discussed how can we jointly move this together. And he has been a big proponent of our joint effort together, and I have to give him a lot of credit for helping these to move along as well.
So we're going to have a vote in the full House this week even.
And that is my understanding as well. And once we make it through the House, and there is every expectation that it will be passed through the House since it made it with a lot of support, bipartisan, going through the committee. It will then go over to the Senate side, where, again, you'll have the Senate committee, the Health Committee, take this up. I've been in discussion with the chair of that committee already, and we'll have a meeting coming up sometime in the near future to further hash out any differences of opinion as far as the Senate's thinking on these bills. But we're going to have, again, that effort to make this bicameral. Mm-hmm. And you need that. And after it goes through the Senate committee, it'll go through the Senate itself. And if they change the bill, then it comes back to the House for us to participate in the discussion somewhat further until we can agree on a setting, until we can agree on an approach.
Is there a sense of urgency with this?
There are no interchangeable biosimilars on the market right now, and we anticipate it'll be another year or two before they are commercially available, because it requires a significantly greater amount of testing before the FDA is going to approve them as interchangeables. The first biosimilar, the first medication, was just approved earlier this year that dealt with some of our cancer patients that have low blood levels, low white cell levels, and there was a drug that we used to call Neupogen that a biosimilar was approved by the FDA. So we have our first biosimilar, but they did not make it an interchangeable. So right now the pharmacists cannot interchange that for the trade name drug.
And try to bring the price down.
And this is all about trying to make sure that our drugs stay affordable and that we control the cost of health care going into the future, that we have safety.
Last month when you were here, we talked a little bit about the idea of the Sojourner Truth license plate. I saw after we talked there was some chatter on social media about it and some excitement about that.
I think that there should be a great deal of excitement about this, and we're going to continue to push for this. I believe that bill is going to be going to our Transportation Committee, and it'll give me a chance to go speak with my colleagues on that committee and try to make sure that they are also supportive. I believe right now we have 2 license plates that may be able to be placed into circulation. These things oftentimes will circulate, and if not enough people buy that license plate, then oftentimes it will fall off because of a lack of interest in getting that plate. But that's going to allow some dollars to flow back into this Battle Creek community to promote the name of Sojourner Truth through the Sojourner Truth Institute. Nice. And we will be looking forward to having her support. I think that she has done marvelous things for this nation and deserves all of the credit for her activities over the years.
All right, Representative Dr. John Bizon with us. When next we speak, it'll be December. Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe that we're moving so quickly towards that cold month.
I know. We'll see you then.
Hey, sounds great, Richard.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. 8:20.